This summer we saw a ton of hype for the Saudi League. The chances are that a player from the club that you support moved to Saudi Arabia, and they probably even quadrupled their salary for doing so. We saw dozens of older players departing, we saw a few wonderkids moving there as well, and this spending spree saw Saudi go from the 3rd worst rated league on FIFA 23 all the way up to the 10th best on FC 24. This all asks the question though, is the Saudi League actually any fun to play on FC 24? That's a question we'll be answering today, along with why you should be picking this league over similarly ranked leagues, who you should be using in this league, and how can you keep the least realistic league on FC 24 realistic. So let's start with why you should be playing in this league. Like any other league, Saudi Arabia has its strengths and weaknesses. Some of the best strengths are that it's easy to access the Asian Champions League. This is a competition that not many people actually even know is in the game. Saudi Arabian career modes have also been so rarely used in the past that now is a great time to experience a new league and a bunch of teams that you've never used before. Outside of the billionaire-owned teams, the rest are actually surprisingly good still. They're equivalent to the upper championship and the MLS level, which is quite surprising when you think about how much money has been pumped into these best teams. You can also actually select manager at basically every single club in the league, which isn't the case in France, England or Germany. Of course, no league is only benefits. When playing in Saudi Arabia, you do also have some downsides. Currently, there's no national team in the unmodded version of FIFA. This means that a full Saudi Arabian club and country save is not possible. The league also has a big lack of licensed stadiums and licensed faces. Al Nassr and Al Shabab both have real stadiums, but no other team in the league has one that looks anything like their real ground. Even with the new players as well, there is really a lack of real faces when it comes to some of the lower rated players. Of course though, the biggest reason to play in Saudi Arabia is the massive transfer budgets for such a small league. Almost any player in the world is realistic for you to sign at any of the clubs. Whether you go for Mbappe, Salah, or even a younger talent, someone like Osimhen, it's a very unique league with this set of strengths. You probably associate similar traits with the Chinese Super League a few years ago, or the MLS if you're slightly older. But I think both of these comparisons are actually quite lazy, because the Saudi Arabian Pro League looks like it's going to be here to stay. And with all that money sloshing around, is the league actually any good? Well, I've played a full season in Saudi Arabia, and I can tell you yes, it is actually quite fun on FC 24. As someone who loves realism in his football games, it doesn't really apply to this league. You'll see random teams signing players like Dybala and think, whoa, yeah, that could actually happen in real life. The biggest problem though is the average age of the teams is so high that after a couple of years, all of the good players will retire and the AI just basically isn't smart enough to replace them. This means that it's probably best if you just keep this as a very short save. So hopefully by now you've got a decent idea on starting a Saudi Arabian save. As I've always done, I've decided to group the clubs in this division into 3 tiers based on how challenging you'd like your save to be. If you'd like a really easy save, go for a club like Al Hilal, who the majority of the national team players play for. You've got Al Nassr of course with Ronaldo, and Al Ittihad who've also spent a ton of money over the past couple of years. The next tier of clubs are all slightly tougher. Expect a career in one of these teams to last a few seasons longer than someone like Al Hilal or Al Nassr. So you've got Al Ittifaq, Al Ahly and Al Shabab. All 3 of these clubs have worse players and smaller budgets than the bigger clubs in the league, but they still have a decent amount of money and you can basically rebuild or even build for the first time a Saudi Arabian club with the big name players that you're most interested in using. Finally, we have the most tough and difficult clubs, who in FC 24 this year are Altai and Al Hazem. If you're one of the few players who still likes to create your own club, I think Saudi Arabia also has a pretty cool option. Because there is no national team in game, why not create them and put them in the league itself? You can say that you can only sign Saudi Arabian players, and you could even make it a little bit harder by maybe even restricting yourself to being the under-21s team by selling every single player as soon as they reach 22 years old. I think it would be a super interesting challenge to beat some of these mega teams with their superstars while you're trying to win the league with a fully domestic squad. Could be a really good save and I do recommend it. If you want to try and keep the entire league fun no matter what club you are, I would say that if you're one of the clubs we said was hard earlier, maybe keep your player ratings to around 80. If you've got a medium difficulty club, maybe 84, and if you're at one of the big clubs, of course, you can sign basically anyone. We mentioned earlier Mohamed Salah, you've also got Kylian Mbappe, players like Paul Pogba, Mason Greenwood, lots of big name players have been linked with this league, so really, it's up to you how you keep it fun. One of the things that I definitely think helps make FIFA a little bit more fun is having a record to aim for. In this league, we have 3. The all-time top scorer, which was Majid Abdullah. He got 189 goals in 194 games. So see if maybe you could break that with someone like Cristiano Ronaldo. Most league wins is Al Hilal, and again, some of these other bigger teams, you could probably overtake them if you go on a massive period of dominance over your 15 seasons. The most appearances in the league ever was Mohamed Al Diyar, who has 406 appearances for his club. It would be a really tough challenge, but maybe try and beat this with a youth academy player from Saudi Arabia. It would be a really cool challenge and definitely a record you'd be proud of. I know we mentioned that this is a very unrealistic league, both on FIFA and in real life, but let's talk about realism for a second. So for league rules, every team in this league is actually only allowed 8 non-Saudi players, and they can't own more than 30 players at one time, and these 8 foreign players can be from literally anywhere, with no restrictions on age, what continent they were from, or their nationality. This means you can build an entire team of Irish players if you wanted, an entire team of Americans, any club, any nation, anything you want, you can do, as long as you keep it to just 8 foreign players. If you're interested in knowing where most signings come from, of course, you're trying to sign massive, high reputation players from Europe. Older players from mid-sized European teams would probably join basically any team in the league. You've seen this with Marega, Ospina and Banega, they're all in the league right now. I think in the past you've seen a lot of young Brazilians and young Argentinians who never moved to Europe go to Saudi Arabia, and that may be more of a historic signing tactic, but it is still definitely a valid one. I think the majority of their big name signings have come from England, Spain and France over the past couple of years. Of course, Italy and Germany are also big name targets, but I feel like less players have gone from Germany to Saudi Arabia in the past. I would definitely recommend looking at these 3 nations first, and then moving on to Germany and Italy if you can't find the player that you want. Finally, with the youth academy signings, I would definitely recommend 1 scout is going to Saudi Arabia, 1 is going to Africa, and 1 is going to a South American country. I'll leave it up to you to decide the African and South American countries, but this is what the majority of the academies in Saudi Arabia are built up like. So, what is our final verdict, and can we answer the question in the title? I definitely think that the Saudi Arabian league can be fun, but after 2 or 3 seasons, a lot of the legends in the league will have retired. Ronaldo, Benzema, Neymar, they're all aging, and the league isn't as fun when they aren't in there. The AI definitely isn't smart enough to replace them, although you will see random transfers like Dybala like I mentioned earlier. It could be an ideal short-term save when you want to learn about the game, or it's a great league to start off in a Pentagon challenge, but I really doubt many people will spend all 15 years of their career mode in Saudi Arabia. Hopefully you enjoyed this video, and why not subscribe if you want to see more content like this in the future. If you want to become the best manager that Saudi Arabia has ever seen, why not check out my video on the new tactical vision system, which is on screen right now. But I really appreciate you clicking on this video. Thanks for liking it, and thanks for watching. I'll see you soon. Cheers and goodbye.